This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, so it's 5:31. Hi, Mark Darnold on the internet. Just so you know, even though you can't see everyone, we can all see you because you're up on the big screen.
Oh wow, big screen.
Big screen. So we have a quorum in person here. We have 5 people. So let's get started. First thing on the agenda, as always, is open time for the public. There are no publics here. So we'll move on to the next item, which is approving the minutes from the November 1st meeting. I can actually put them up here for, I guess I can share my screen too.
That's so fancy.
Yeah, isn't it? Ooh. And then I can also share it so that Mark on the internet can see it.
One question.
Yes.
You had said that the minutes were approved with changes. Were the changes actually made on the paper on the last one?
Before I submitted them
Yeah.
to the town and to my town
Great.
government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So looking at November 1st, does anybody have any corrections?
I move to accept as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So if you're going to do this, is it good that I send it to everybody in advance of the meeting so you read it, or is
Absolutely.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
Definitely.
Okay.
Even though you're incredibly, wonderfully succinct.
Yeah, and I like to put the agenda for tonight down at the very bottom. I take the agenda off when I submit it to the town. Okay.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is to finalize the updated CPA projects application form. So let me pull that up. 1 second, I should have had that up already. So while I pull that up, let's take a moment to acknowledge the amazing victory that happened last night at the town meeting when the Mountain Waters project was approved unanimously, both sides of it, the conservation restrictions as well as the in-fee purchases. Woohoo! There was no applause allowed at the thing, but
People tried.
People tried.
Yeah, I was like, stop that. Too late now.
So that was really awesome. Major props to Mark Cassis, who really led the charge on all of the making things happen. So props to you. We're a major champion.
Cindy Palmer and Kestrel did all the prior work. I just made sure things didn't fall through the cracks.
Cindy,
Yes.
Cindy outlined everything.
Props to Cindy, props to Bridget and Mark from Kestrel, and everyone on the CPC, Open Space and Concom and Select Board for all of their help, and Ed also.
I thought it was funny when Cindy said, Bridget, are you coming over here?
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Bridget, you gonna answer that? Okay. So this is the updated application. So the only thing that's changed since our last meeting was we discussed the suggestion from Stuart to move to an annual cycle for applications, and the committee was not into that idea. And so what we changed was right here. Actually, I can expand the text a little bit so it's a little bit bigger. So the language we sort of came up with at the last meeting was applicants are strongly encouraged to submit their projects a minimum, in bold, of 60 days prior to the next scheduled annual town meeting or special town meeting. Submitting applications well in advance of a town meeting increases the likelihood, but does not guarantee that the Community Preservation Committee will vote in time to advance the project to the next town meeting. What do you guys think about that language?
I think that sounds great.
Yep.
I know in the past, we always had an annual meeting like that for response, but people could submit their requests anytime.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an October request for
Yeah.
submissions, which I think we rarely got any.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
in the past we did. Years ago, we'd have a meeting that people could bring their presentation and their form, but we just kind of stopped doing that. Virginia had her reasons, but.
Yeah, Virginia was also, when I emailed her about this, she was also very much not in favor of the strict annual cycle, you have to get it in. So I think regardless of what Stuart at the coalition says, the members of this actual committee who are here doing the work strongly believe that we want to accept things year round. And so we're going to do it.
Well, I mean, Mountain Waters wouldn't have happened, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it was the last, we got,
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
So-
should it say that requests will be honored at any time, or?
I think that's-
applications can be
They're
submitted?
strongly encouraged is, I think, good word.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't say required, so it's
Yeah,
strongly encouraged.
At a minimum of 60,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
So other than that, this is pretty much, we can do a slow scroll through and see if there's anything else we want to change here. So first we've got before anyone does anything, I want them to see if their thing is eligible. So I'm sending them to the allowable uses, which is a great
Fantastic.
resource. It's got our name and address. It has a list of what your proposal needs to include. So it's both the form that's below on here, you'll see in a second, quotes or other substantiation of costs. This was another language we came up with. For projects involving contracted work, 3 itemized comparable quotes should be provided. Again, that is not a required, because we realized for some town things they can't go out for bids until they have the funds appropriated. So they should be provided, but if for some reason they can't, it's not like a complete deal breaker. And then of course supporting documents. Okay, we did the deadlines. So then once it's received, they're invited to a meeting to discuss the project. They can look up when our next meeting is, and they're invited to bring anyone they want. And by the way, anyone can come. So that means someone who doesn't agree with your project could show up and tell you it's a terrible idea if they wanted to.
What are the policies of having a non-town member come and want to talk at the meeting? Just my ignorance is on
It's
this.
absolutely allowed, because just like when Bridget came, as long as, because anyone can apply for the funds as long as it's going to benefit Southampton. So you can absolutely have someone who doesn't live in the town but just knows more about the project.
Do we need
come
to,
speak.
they need to get permission to talk, or they just?
I think
hear?
she has to request permission from Robert.
Yeah,
No, I'm
No,
talking here.
At our meetings,
So
no.
basically,
we've always been pretty informal. I don't think
Yeah.
we've ever
yeah,
adopted anything.
technically I need to like recognize someone who's not on the committee to talk, but of course I will. Or they can come to open time for the public, in which case
So
they can say
technically,
whatever.
we need to approve them, but it's not.
Yes.
it's
And they
not-
can show up and watch anytime they want, but if they want to speak, I would need to recognize them, which there's no reason I ever wouldn't recognize someone.
That was just for my learning. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So here's the caveat, which says we will not necessarily don't get your hopes up, because we might say no. So we may vote to recommend the funds, or we could also recommend partial funding. We could say we need more time, we need more information. We could say we need additional agreements. We could say you need to change this aspect of the project so that it fits eligibility, or we could say no.
Hold 1 second.
Sure.
I'm just reading the third one.
Sorry, I'm a fast scroller.
And does it say that it has to be one of our 4 categories to qualify?
Yes, and
Okay.
there's more about that down below.
Okay,
I'm just not sure what number 3 means. I'm sorry.
number 3.
Require
Such as-
additional agreements. What if we combine 2 and 3? What if we say require more time to deliberate, or request additional information or agreements such as preservation restrictions?
Conservation restriction?
Oh yeah,
Well,
conservation.
conservation restrictions won't be finalized, right? They can't finalize until after they get the money.
Yeah, but we could always condition a vote based on them having a conservation restriction.
Or,
Is that what that was meant
But
to
this
say?
is a vote to approve the funding.
but a conservation restriction could just be on the land and then we're approving something else about it. So it could be something that already exists.
Historically, we've primarily, I think CPC has voted to fund money to go towards a conservation restriction. And the conservation restriction has to be negotiated after
Right.
the funds are available.
So what if we say,
I'm not so sure you need to put, conservation or anything. I would tend to believe you could leave conservation out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Require additional agreements regarding restrictions.
yeah, or regarding commitments from other involved parties?
Yeah, but when you say conservation, it makes it sound as though those are the only ones.
Yeah, true.
Agreements or restrictions sounds great. Or what did you say? You said another word that
What
was
if we
perfect.
what if we take require more time to deliberate is one, and then we could say request additional information or agreements or what is commitments or something?
I think additional information is broad enough. It can include everything
Yeah?
True.
and doesn't,
What if we say information or documentation?
or documentation. That's good.
There we go.
Perfect.
You're
Thanks,
such a
guys.
linguist.
I was an English major in college.
Yeah, or and
And I wasn't.
documentation.
And I was an engineer. We
Takes
didn't know
all
how to
kinds.
speak English.
Okay, are we happy with this paragraph?
Yes.
Okay. Criteria considered. So we went over this at that one meeting and we've sort of pulled together the notes, but obviously, does it meet eligibility requirements? Is it consistent with the interests of the town as defined by the master plan or other strategic plans like open space, land use, conservation, etc.? Does it contribute to the preservation of our unique character, boost vitality, enhance quality of life? Does this project save resources that would otherwise be threatened? Does it serve multiple needs and populations or more than one CPA purpose? Does it leverage additional funding or private funds or demonstrate that other funding sources are not available or sufficient? So in other words, at least they tried to get other funds. They didn't just go straight to us.
Or sometimes they have their own a little bit of their own funding sources too.
Yes. Does this project preserve or better utilize town-owned assets? Demonstrate cooperation with other town boards, departments, or groups? Is it reasonably feasible to implement within the budget? We debated that one a bit at the last meeting or two. Does this demonstrate a high cost benefit value? Has the team successfully implemented projects of similar type of scale, or have they demonstrated the ability and competency to implement the project as proposed? So even if they haven't done it before, they've shown that they can do it. Have they demonstrated support from abutters and the neighborhood where it's proposed, if applicable? And have they planned for and accounted for ongoing costs and other maintenance ramifications? Cool with that?
Hey, can you go up a little bit? Oops. Okay, so the last one, and not the last one, the second one, demonstrating support from abutters. So these are just relative criteria, not absolute criteria.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
that-
what do we say?
the-
Criteria considered when
Yeah.
approving. Yeah.
So the ultimate decision about that will be at the town
Yeah.
meeting.
Yep.
vote, so-
But is it necessary that it serves multiple needs and
No, but
populations?
I think it makes it, I think these are all things that we consider.
Might be considered.
And
Yeah.
so if it serves multiple needs, I think it's gonna.
It's
a plus.
Be a higher good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so all of these, they're pluses, but they're not required. Now, do we want to make that explicit? Criteria considered, parentheses, but not necessarily required?
Well, my
No, I think
only
it's
concern
fine.
is, there's a slight chance that someone's gonna read it and say, oh, I'm not gonna apply because we don't meet all these criteria. And that's, so, and, you know, especially people who are not familiar with the process.
Yeah, so
Gonna
maybe
give
we
a,
should say
you know, magic from
consider
Maddie
it.
that may not come
Yeah,
from nowhere. Is it-
parenthetical, but not required,
Yes.
right where you are.
Or it's not, yeah, not required.
Or even
But some of them are required, so
criteria that will enhance the application or something like that. That's,
criteria and considered,
I like that wording, but I see what you mean.
yeah. I
what if we
just-
say at the bottom, how about this? We say,
Magic for Maddie, if someone didn't know, you've just said, I can't meet this criteria, I'm not gonna apply.
this is, we say this is not a checklist, or no, how about this? Meeting several of these criteria will increase the chance that a project will be funded,
Or pushed forward by funding, because we,
all right, will be recommended for funding.
yes.
It is not required that projects meet all of this criteria.
Perfect.
Are you going to run this corrected or changed form through Stu?
He's seen it, I mean, I think these corrections we're making are pretty minimal, so, and he's seen it partway through the process and made his recommendations, so
Sure.
I think we're good. It's not required that a project meet all of this criteria.
This or
These.
Oh yeah, it wants it these. Please note, meeting several of these criteria will increase the chance that a project will be recommended for funding. It is not required that a project meet all of these criteria. Is it meet or meets? Sorry, I'm the English major.
Project meets. Yeah, project meets.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
project meet.
That's right, project
Yeah,
meet.
that's-
Okay, we cool with that?
Yep.
All right, town meeting vote. If the majority of the CPC votes in favor of the project, it'll be advanced for inclusion on the next town meeting warrant. Our town meeting is generally in May. This is really just like for someone who's not familiar with us. Obviously, sometimes it's in June, sometimes in April. Sometimes it's a special town meeting is scheduled, the residents have the final authority to award CPA funds. It's highly recommended the applicants attend the town meeting to speak in favor of the project and answer any questions. Member of the public may speak in favor of or against the project at town meeting.
Perfect.
I'm going to capitalize that. I think that's what it wants me to do. Okay. Disbursement and monitoring of funds. CPA monies are public funds raised from tax revenues, state subsidies. Projects financed with CPA funds must comply with all applicable state and it's not finance because that implies like borrowing. It's supported by, right?
I think fine.
Finance, I mean, we're giving the money, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finance doesn't necessarily mean you're borrowing it or leasing it. Okay.
Maybe funded, projects funded.
Yeah, maybe funded is maybe.
Well, then you have CPA funds.
Yeah, but you know what? That's okay. Funded with CPA funds. Funds are administered and dispersed by the town of Southampton according to city disbursement procedures.
Do we also need to
I gotta move.
say that unused funds will be returned to CPA?
Yes, that's a little later.
Okay, great.
So then, link to chapter 3B, which explains a little more about procurement officer, which is the town administrator, right? And it's still going to be even when Ed leaves?
Not necessarily. I
Okay.
think they're looking to make Bradley the CFO, so I think leaving it as chief procurement officer is the
great.
safest.
Okay. And then progress updates. This is where we talk about the, let's call this project updates and unused funds. The individuals leading the project are expected to keep CBAC updated informally via email on their progress, including any delays, changes, and once the project is complete. This allows the CPA to maintain accurate accounting and fulfill reporting requirements with the town and the state. When the project is completed, all unused funds will be returned to the CPA account from which they were appropriated. Make sense? Okay. So then this is the application they actually have to fill out. So it's got their contact info, additional partners, project description, including criteria, how it meets it. They can either use this digital form and like make it this larger, or they can print it out and attach additional pages. Timeline, start and end date, program category, project purpose, and then estimated cost, expense detail, which I'm assuming they're gonna submit as like a separate document. This is the thing we were concerned about. If ongoing maintenance is required, explain how it will be accomplished. Amount requested, total funds from other sources, details, and signature.
My only question, if you go up a little bit, I apologize. Those two sections, CPA program areas, checklist, if people are inexperienced, they may get, again, balk at that, or just a way for some to figure out what to do with that question, because I think...
Oh yeah, so what if we, once again,
or-
link this? So what if we go here?
Or is there a way for them to send us questions when they're filling this out? And that's a pain in the neck, but...
Let's see.
Could we put, I mean, we're gonna post this on our webpage.
Yes.
Could we put a little blurb in there, like,
For questions.
please come see us, ask us
Yeah.
about your project, something like almost an appeal for
Yeah, you want to discuss it?
Visit
any questions we need.
for
periodically.
definitions.
Maybe it's only my problem and not a general problem, but that's came to mind.
No, I think you're right. For definitions, or feel free to contact the CPC at townofsouthampton.com. Okay.
Is it org?
Org, in
Yep.
org?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay. So that way, they just have those resources right there if they start to freak out.
It's an extra parenthesis, there you go.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that looks pretty good.
Excellent.
The one thing, if you scroll up, it's just a pet peeve, when you have the text there. Way up top, you can scroll down more, like anywhere you have text going across. I love justified text.
Justified, eh? Like,
Super
like
petty.
newspaper justified?
Yeah, well, if
Like
you
the
highlight the
paragraph
whole
above
thing
looks
and then
to-
up at the top, there's a way to justify it.
Some
It's
people
just,
like it
it's
and some
super.
Yeah, or left, right, or left, or
So you
right.
want it center justified, or rather,
Right and left justified, right?
Yeah.
Just
It's
justify.
gonna take, anything you have centered though, you don't wanna do it right now.
Yeah, because you know
It's gonna
what?
take off anything
Yeah,
centered.
don't do the whole
Yeah.
You
page.
sent it to me, is this a PDF?
It's a Word document, but you know what, Randall? I don't know if I'm into that idea.
Okay,
because
that's up to you. It's
you know,
just a pet peeve.
that's the thing that does things like it'll spread words out if they're not
Yeah.
long enough
Yeah.
to meet the end.
Yeah, I
It's
find it
fine,
harder
it's
to
fine. Most
read.
people don't even
It
think
is
about that.
Very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, but harder to read.
It's hard to
For
read.
me.
I think
It's hard for me to leave because I have astigmatism. So if I get to a hanging end of a sentence, it doesn't snap back.
Dang. Okay, well, do we need to vote on whether to center justify this?
No, it was only a suggestion.
Okay.
If that's the worst problem we have with this forum, we're doing
No,
it
I
wrong.
think it's fine.
Okay, I think we're gonna leave it as is, but I respectfully hear your requests, and next time you make a document or I send you anything, I promise it'll be justified. Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve this for use on like.
I think on item 5 you have a problem.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Sorry about that.
What did he say?
Item 5, here we go.
Yeah, chapter, you have on the third line, services and real property included a requirement period.
Oh, okay. Good catch. Let's just get that out. I don't know what that means, but they can figure that out. Sorry, Mark D. Any other comments from the internet where you live?
Art?
Do you have any other comments, suggestions, or anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you for catching that. I don't want us to look like fools who don't finish our
So
sentences.
we'd rather catch mistakes ourselves than someone else.
I move, go ahead.
I just, explain to me better the rehabilitation. I think some places, some projects would, there's something in the back of my mind about rehabilitation that we can't spend money for.
So there are certain things here. Let me show you this. There are certain things that CPA funds
Is it
can't be used
maybe
to
only
rehabilitate.
projects that we've originally funded that we can rehabilitate?
Here, let me show you. So rehabilitate or restore can be done for historic and recreation no matter what, and housing and open space only if it was acquired or created with CPA
Yeah, that's what
funds.
I was saying, it's only if
Yeah.
it was acquired by CPA.
Right.
Yeah.
So, down there at the bottom where it says rehabilitation or
Here on the-
restoration, right there.
Yes.
With certain requirements or something, or,
That means we need to go back and do our research.
Yeah, I think because this is the link that I just showed you right here, they're gonna go look at
Yeah.
that and they're gonna see that they
If
can't do rehabilitation if they, so I think it's fine if they,
Okay.
if they get it wrong.
okay, I
We'll
just
go
remember
with
there was
that.
something about rehabilitation you couldn't do.
Yes.
Okay.
Good
Totally.
memory.
Good call. All right, do we have a motion?
Motion that the CPA committee use this form for future applications.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks all. Motion passes unanimously. I will post this on our website.
Seconded, anybody seconded?
I seconded.
Okay.
So it'll go on our, mostly just on our website or anyone who requests to use it. Okay,
Good
what's
job.
next on the agenda? Okay, so, real quick, I wanted to institute a new old segment of our meeting called Committee Liaison Share Out. So this, Mark, you had brought up that you wanted to like gain a better understanding of each sort of committee that someone's on's priorities. And I think that's just a good best practice in general, that we should on an ongoing basis do that. You know, we're a committee of liaisons mostly. And interestingly enough, even our elected members happen to be on committees that don't have representation here. You're on open space and you're on Greenway. So it's kind of amazing. We're kind of all liaisons, which is great. And so this can be as long or as short as you want. No pressure. If you didn't have time to like get your S together before it, don't freak out. It's okay. This is not like a test. It's just an opportunity. And also if we're like having a really full meeting with a lot of other things, we can condense it. But, and the way Virginia used to do it, she'd just say like, hey, Sierra, got any updates from housing? But I just wanted to like formalize it so it got a segment on the agenda that's sort of ongoing, basically.
Will also lead into this annual plan that we've talked about briefly.
Yeah, so, all right, that's another thing I wanted to bring up. So our next sort of things we need to do this spring is we need to develop our annual CPA plan, which we haven't had a written CPA plan before. Virginia felt it was kind of unnecessary, but we're gonna pull that together. We also need to get our budget ready before the annual meeting. So during like the winter and spring, we'll start moving forward on those things. But the CPA plan is gonna include priorities from all of the related committees. So it's just good for us to like stay in the know on what's going on.
Somewhere around after January, the town administrator or administrator's office, I assume this will happen in his absence as well. They'll ask for a report to be included in the annual report.
Like the one pager?
Yeah, it's a report of our activities.
Okay.
So that will come, I think it must come after January 1st.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a calendar year.
Okay, so that's another big spring thing.
Right.
And then other projects we have coming up. We've got Greenway things coming up in the spring. So basically, I think the way we should do this is say, like, we open the floor and say, whoever wants to share first, who has something urgent to share, can share. Let's go. Does anyone like to share what's going on in their committee now?
I'll just give a quick update for Parks. I spoke with the chairman of the Parks Commission recently, and they are working on a master plan for Conant Park, which includes a lot of upgrades and where they see it going in the future, and I'm sure further development of that plan will include ranking the different projects for funding, because there's no way you could do it all at once. Some of the ones I can remember are like a walking path that is ADA compliant. What else did I see? A band shell, like a more formal band shell that would be located where the horseshoe pits used to be, if anybody knows where those used to be, outside of the tennis courts. What else did I see on there? General fixing of areas of erosion, and upgrade of the current playground that's in poor condition, as well as the wooden bridge that goes across if you walk down the hill from the pavilion. Hey, Mark. So that's the things that they're working on for Conant. We had a general conversation about field maintenance. I guess athletic associations don't feel that the fields are kind of up to par, so they're looking to put more money into them for fertilization, things like that, and possible future acquisition for more athletic fields, because they think they're pretty heavily used and are a little crowded.
Other locations?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the splash pad?
The splash pad is underway. I have many of the components at the highway department. Other than that, I've received no updates.
Well, I've just heard from Case Wistak that possibly the splash pad was not going to happen because they did like I don't know if it was a perk test, some kind of test on the ground, and they said it's like not going to work. Have you heard of this?
We performed the perk tests, but why would the town have then gone ahead and bought the components?
That's a great question. Okay, so this is to be discovered, but last I heard was like, oh yeah, splash pad's not happening, but maybe it is happening.
I don't know if that's true. I think it still will happen.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe you could connect with the health department about the Kate said it was her colleague on the health department who was saying that. So.
Oh yeah, the health director has not been in favor of the project.
Yes,
so
that's the one.
This is a real. Yeah, I'll get a status update.
Thanks.
Well, because there are certain there can be an interpretation of like regulations having to do with swimming pools and
Splash.
clean.
Clean water.
What do you do if there's going to be dirty diapers and they're now saturated with water, and it's sanitation. Sanitation concerns is what she's concerned with.
Yeah.
And the second test
Which is valid.
It is
We
bad.
have such dry summers now, and notice the water fountain wasn't on a lot of the summer.
So that is just based on, I've got 4 guys, and a water fountain is not something
It's
that's
not
at the
based
top
on
of my
water.
list to accomplish.
No, I know, but it's not based on the.
That we're out of
in,
water.
in past years, it has been.
Yeah.
The water superintendent and I have not felt like it's a good look for the town.
If you can't wash
to
your
have,
car.
Right, to have a fountain going that you really do have to fill up like on a weekly basis with hundreds of gallons of water.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it evaporates, and if it's windy, it blows off.
Wouldn't that be the same thing
It's
with
not a
the-
good look if there's conservation.
That'd be the same thing with a
measures.
splash pad then, I would think.
Well, maybe. The,
Does it
the
have to
splash
have-
pad supposedly is engineered to be like low flow, I guess, from,
But it still uses water.
you're not wrong.
So maybe it would end up being turned off
But I
in
mean, we
times
don't
when
have
it's
hard and
like water
fast
warnings.
prohibitions anyway. We ask people for water conservation measures, and then you'll drive around and see sprinklers going off
Yeah,
while it's
watering
raining.
their lawn at
Like,
Yeah.
3 in the afternoon.
Okay. All right. Very, very good updates. And you said Magic for Maddie Playground is in progress right now, right?
it is complete.
It's complete?
Yes,
Woo!
it was. I guess the town wasn't involved for the dedication.
The what?
The group that put
Magic for Maddie?
Magic for Maddie.
Yeah.
It was the
Yeah.
ADA.
I think I saw it on Facebook that they were having
Yes.
an
It's a
event.
beautiful place.
I haven't seen the playground though. I gotta go check that out.
Very pretty.
Yeah, a little disappointing. I already got a call last week. Somebody called police dispatch, and I was sent out to pick up broken bottles. Somebody's already breaking bottles on a brand new playground.
Come on, people.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very,
It's-
very depressing.
Break your bottles in your house.
Not just bottles though. They actually broke them, so we had to pick up a bunch of broken glass.
Like intentionally threw them just to be jerks. Wow, that
You'd
sucks.
be surprised, I pick up something every day at the end of my driveway. And across the street to the entrance.
And
to the
down
shop.
High
Yeah,
Street.
things like, for me at least, I'm on Route 10, things like blow in from the road for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I understand they're gonna change the redeeming about to 10 cents a can now
All right.
in
Gotta
bottles.
make it a buck.
Yeah.
That's not gonna.
And not all cans
Maybe
of
more
bottles
people will
are
return
kind of
their
either.
bottles if it's 10 cents a bottle.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah. Would anyone else like to share from
The,
their committee?
Historical Commission has had some significant resignations, and frankly, we're having trouble, or we have had trouble, finding new members to establish a quorum. I think we have that under control now, with the exception that one of the members has not been approved yet by the select board. So consequently, we have not been having meetings. During COVID, of course, our one major asset, the schoolhouse, has not been open. So there have been no changes there. I was a little bit disconcerted that Mr. Geeler had a lot of equipment parked in that parking lot for a number of months, and was about to say something to you, but I see that they're disappeared now, so.
Yeah, I mean, they were mostly there because of the
Yeah, I know.
water line project,
I
which
know.
was not my project, by the way.
I know. I know. So consequently, we have not had that open, but we'll try to do that more often now. The Historical Society, of course, is not part of the commission, but I was there at that house the other day, and they've done a fantastic job in renovation and reorganization of what goes on. They have a collection of, I don't know whether you're familiar with what a Belschnickel is, but Belschnickels are, they're a German doll entirely made out of cloth having to do with Christmas. And they acquired a collection of about 30 or 35 of them that they're going to have on display Sunday, which is magnificent. So if you have a chance to go there, it's worth it just to look at that.
I've never gone
that
there.
collection.
I
You
haven't
haven't been?
either.
They've done a great job.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work, They're Tammy Walunas, and yeah, done a lot of work there.
Could you explain just a little more for me the lines between the Historical Society and the Historical Commission? Like, what's the two different purviews?
The commission is a government organization.
Right.
The society is a private organization, They are a 501(c), whatever that means.
Nonprofit.
Nonprofit, but you have to be a member. They charge dues, and you have to be a member of the society. So it is totally non-government.
And do you guys have similar like priorities and goals?
No.
Okay.
No. I think, I'm not sure what the total priorities of the society are, but a lot of effort goes into maintaining and keeping that house open to the public. It's a great asset. There was a time that when my wife was in charge, every year, the classes at the school would go and visit the house. They had a schedule that they would take an entire morning and visit the house. There's just so much history in there, military history, local history. I don't know if you've seen the Historical Society calendar, but they just put one out for next year, and they took pictures of a lot of the stuff that's in there. Magnificent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can I ask a offshoot of that? So the Historical Commission, what are the mandates, or what's the responsibilities of the commission in terms of?
The commission itself is, let's see if I can remember what the wording I put on my report every time is to maintain and enhance the historical assets of the town. The cemetery is considered, because it's on the National Register. So that's a historical asset of the town. So
Okay, thank you.
the schoolhouse having been moved and maintained. So to maintain and enhance the historical assets of the town. We do things like, for instance, one of the things that's bugging me right now, and I'm gonna see what we can do about it, is the sign that's in front of Town Hall here is badly, I think it's an abomination.
Don't we need to wait until we see what the senior center does?
Well, yes, we do. Well, I'm not even thinking about the senior center. I'm just
But
saying that
the wording, I was
the sign that says Town Hall,
It's ugly.
Town of Southampton,
It's ugly.
is ugly. I mean, it doesn't say anything about the senior center. It just says
Yes,
Town
it
of
does.
Southampton. That's
Down at the
all.
bottom, at senior center.
Does it say senior center? So we take that off. So it's things like that.
Thank you.
that we-
I've suggested it as an Eagle Scout project, but
Yes,
I think
yes.
it might wait until
Yeah.
we figure out the wording.
One of the things that currently kind of bothers me, and I don't know until some decisions are made, is what's going to happen with Old Town Hall, that kind of thing. It's a historic building.
But why did they paint the trim on the windows?
I think that was just a maintenance.
It says-
Maintenance, they fixed the roof.
It looks great, but it's awfully expensive, isn't it? Where'd that
What are
money
you
come
gonna
from?
do? I mean, let it degrade further?
Yeah, I mean, Janet, some of those windows were ready to fall out.
Were they?
Oh, good God, yes.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
did a
I-
beautiful job, though.
I can't believe that every year that goes by and we don't have a public safety complex, I'm just like,
It's so sad.
what is this town doing with their money?
Talk to Mr. Darnell.
So do you foresee any preservation project requests coming from the Historical Commissioner Society in the near future?
Nothing major, no.
There is $200,000 sitting, $216,000 sitting in the account that can only be used for historical preservation.
I know, and I was talking to Johanna at the library. She really wanted to, I know she talked to you too.
Yeah.
She really wanted to do some projects with the historical items and digital documents that she has there, but I talked to Stuart, and unfortunately, those projects did not fit the preservation requirement. They were considered maintenance, which doesn't really, it's not fundable. So, really sad about
How
that.
do they find the difference? I mean, paper documents?
Because digital, supposedly, yeah, like we had these fun ideas, like, some genealogy databases and things like that, event databases, which are great ideas, but they aren't considered historic preservation because they're digital, and digital things are not considered preservation.
Well, there are things.
It's been used.
It has, which is what is weird about it, but Stuart was basically like, yeah, no, even digitization shouldn't have been a thing.
She wanted to digitize, there is, one of the things that the Historic Commission does is that there's a state, it's called the Massachusetts Cultural Resources Inventory System, MACRS.
Yes, macros, I know them. I know them.
For Southampton, there are some, like, I'm going to say, it's actually 2 volumes, there's probably 60 or so residences, private residences that qualify for the state mention in, and there's pictures of all those. And what it does is protect those properties from being demolished without coming to the Historical Commission first. So if you own one of those houses and you said, you know, I can't live in it anymore and I'm just letting it go to hell and I'm going to tear it down and I'm going to put a apartment complex there. Don't laugh. They would have to run that through us first. And we could delay it for a year, but not totally stop it. So that MACRS inventory is important.
What happens if they run a wrecking ball through it before they run it through you?
Oh.
It's happened in other towns.
I know, we've talked about it.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. Very good, edifying.
So if I can talk about Greenway, just.
Yeah, Greenway Times, yes.
There's a Mass Trails grant cycle, that grant to be submitted by February 1st. We hope it's going to be the last of 3 planning grants, although there's things can slow things down. And I just requested from Tyan Bond to sort of get a sense of their timeline and a budget for that, but we would be looking for about a 20% match, and we expect it to be less than the 60,000 that we requested last year.
Okay.
Although we don't know the exact amount, but that will be almost as certainly coming as a request before the spring town meeting.
So we're still deep in the planning and design phase, right?
Well, again, the hope is if all goes well, it's finished now and there's actually funding. We're on the cycle. We've gotten first stage of approval for funding of the construction from the state.
We're on the tip, which is a big thing. It's a big thing to be a transportation improvement program.
So but that's probably won't start till 27 or something, 26 or 27.
I think it's on for 27, which means it would be advertised in 27, so construction wouldn't start till 28.
But it's going, but we need to do this work, and we've had a lot of support from the state, but we'll need a match for that, approximately 20%.
What happens between now and 2027?
Twiddle your thumbs.
Design is ridiculously complex.
Yeah.
So when you go to design, I'm assuming bike trail is just as complex as a roadway. You have the designer, you have a design engineer, and they'll do the plans, they'll send it off to Mass DOT. Mass DOT will have comments, and then they will punt it back to the design engineer, and that back and forth process happens for years.
And it requires public review. So tentatively in March, they're hoping to submit what's called 25% plan to the town and to DOT, and then Mass DOT holds a town meeting. They run it to get input, commentary, and then there's a 75% plan and 100% plan, and then there's all this permitting that has to go on with Conservation Commission, State Historical Society, ADA review, and then there's right-of-way process that has to make sure that all that's settled. So there's tons of steps, but we hope that most of it's done a year and a half from now, and or at least the funding for the town is, even if some of the other pieces drag out.
And I understand we can apply for Mass Trails every year for the same project, right?
We can. They've supported it. They've given us 3 years in a row, one for acquisition, and some of that money can also be used for planning, and then 2 years for planning.
Right on.
And they've been very supportive.
Thanks, Mass Trails.
Well, this project in particular, I think, is it hits a lot of goals for Massachusetts because it's one step closer to connect. Like, from here, you can go all the way into what, Belchertown? Even further.
Yeah.
And if you get to Westfield, you can then go down into Connecticut.
Yeah. So there's a couple gaps. It's Boston
filling
to
this
Hartford.
gap is there's a lot of support for it, so
Yeah.
I think it helps us.
But we'll be coming for a 20% match. Last year we used some contribution of your time and Ed's time and volunteer time to have it slightly less than the 20%, but in that ballpark.
Okay,
In kind,
great.
you know,
In kind. So just as long as someone from historical, someone just sent me an email, Robert Madison, about the old canal that runs through there. And there's also the old train station. So some of this is sort of trying to connect with historical about making sure that that's highlighted as we go by those areas. So,
Right.
but
Oh, cool.
Well,
that won't require extra money, but just as long as we're here.
yeah. There's a sign where there by the canal, the lock,
Mhm,
there's
yeah.
a sign there. And there's one on East Street too. What's that sign? That's the historic district.
Yeah, the canal signs you had me install, one is down by Gorals across from
Right.
Moose Brook, Moose Brook Road. The other one is across from Canal Lanes, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
that was the action, was that the
Yeah,
canal?
that's kind of disappeared, right?
Has it? Maybe I gotta go down over that
It's
bank. and
either
look for it.
overgrown or someone has knocked it down. I don't know
I
which.
wonder
but-
if it got knocked down by a snowplow.
Yeah, I kind of wonder too. 'Cause
I'll look into that, Bob.
Yeah.
It would be cool if we could go on a field trip to look at all of our natural and historic resources.
But in either case, we hope to just make sure we're highlighting historical stuff.
Great,
It's-
great.
It's along there.
And since you mentioned that Mark printed out this budget for us, we already have potential, did we put the potential request from, for the Greenway in here?
No,
Or
I
no, we
did
didn't,
not.
okay. But as you can see, we have plenty of money for
Can I
that.
bring up the other thing that came up with this CPA fund? So
Yeah,
one of the things that came up in trying to finalize the Mountain Waters project is there is probably need to come back in May for a request for $250,000, which will be a rapid turnaround of repayment to the town. This is an idiosyncrasy of the landscape partnership grant, is that we need to show that we put up $500,000 to get the 250 back, but it's ultimately going to be paid by funds coming from Kestrel Land Trust. So what we are probably going to need to do is, or hopefully would do, is about $250,000 for sort of match for landscape partnership grant, with expectations can be paid back within 2 to 3 months of that time.
and that's why you guys got that frantic email from me, because Ed hit us up one day before, before whatever it was, getting the things in, and was like, oh, by the way, you guys are gonna need to like change your language, you guys need to meet on Monday, change everything before the meeting, we're gonna have to figure this out. And then Bridget was like, well, let me just call the landscape partnership people and see if they'll make an exception for us. And we were like, well, that's not gonna work, but okay, you do that. And then it did work.
So if this issue of the specific language, the landscape partnership grant, that it's a matching 50% grant, so they need to, the town needs to show this, put up 500,000. So it may not even be the full 250, because we can use the 300.
And we're not gonna be spending any more money than 120K that we thought we were. It's just showing them that we're willing to pay it up front.
Sounds like the Ponzi component of the Mass Trails grant. Is that?
It's not Mass Trails, this is the Mountain Water.
Landscape partnership,
The
yes.
landscape
It's the Ponzi portion of the landscape
Gotcha,
partnership grant.
Gotcha.
Well, the issue is, the town will be receiving money from Kestrel, and that will be the actual match. So the town's gonna get that 250 back.
Yeah.
But there's this short-term need to show the funding. So that's gonna come up also,
In May.
and it may not be the
Yeah.
full 250, because I think we can apply some of the 370 that
Yeah.
was voted on, but just so people are not surprised at that. And it really is just a short-term.
Well, I guess we've got till May to figure out how to eloquently make it not seem like a Ponzi scheme to the voters.
Maybe stop saying Ponzi scheme on recorded meetings for the public.
No,
Oh,
I'm
man.
sure it's all legitimate.
It's very legit. We're getting like signed commitments that we're getting that money paid back to us very shortly after.
The big issue is that the state wasn't sure if we needed to do a short-term debt for them to be comfortable, or that we could do it later. And they
Yeah.
said it's fine to do it later.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we were like about to need to like change all the language of the motions and take that to the select board and then explain to the town why that was suddenly, oh my gosh, so glad we didn't have to do that. it was a really nerve-wracking day for many of us. Anything else on the Greenway, et cetera?
No, but just think.
Would anyone else like to share? Janet, anyone want to share anything's going on with open space?
Housing is, I would still like to know, I mean, that's our biggest pot of funds in a way, and it's so hard
Housing?
to spend, yes.
Yes, let me share about housing. Hold on, let me give myself back to.
Well, if I could jump in just with
Sure.
an editorial
Okay.
comment about the Greenway. It's on a very similar trajectory as the rebuilding of East Street.
Yeah, okay.
So we've got the two design engineering firms. Unfortunately, they're two different design engineering firms, but they're in contact so that where that intersection occurs, they're going to be on the same
That was
page.
part of what I wanted to talk to you
So,
about when I said earlier. Okay.
I've already made that connection and made sure they know. They both know.
It does allow people coming down the Greenway when it's built to actually get into Conant Park, hopefully, and parking areas.
Yeah, we even talked about it. I had a project scoping meeting for a Safe Routes to School project that's going to improve pedestrian accommodations from Pomeroy Meadow, Route 10 intersection of Pomeroy Meadow up to Gun Road intersection. And on the forum, it was talking about like what accommodations or pedestrian and bike facilities are nearby, and we weren't sure if there might be even access from the end of Helen Drive. You know, you never know where you're going to have access to the bike trail, but it's close enough where we put it on the forum. It's kind of exciting that a lot of things are coming together.
That is exciting. Okay, so on the housing front, we have three sort of things going on. Number one, so the Housing Trust has been established, but has not been populated with trustees yet. That is in process. If you or anybody you know is interested in being a trustee, I can send you the information. There's sort of like a little info sheet we created. Select board is appointing them, so you just have to sort of note your interest. Yeah, we need to fill that up with trustees. I don't know where we're at so far. I know Joy is one of the trustees, so that's great. We got a housing, CPC, and select board member on there. I think the town administrator is going to be like a non-voting member, but I don't know what else has happened since then. But I'm pretty sure it has not been filled yet. So just keep that thought in mind. So housing trust is one thing. The other thing is that 354 College Highway property that we bought last year with CPA funds. So it has been a process. We were looking to begin the RFP process. We met with Wayfinders and Habitat for Humanity, Pioneer Valley Habitat. Wayfinders was saying it was too small of a project for them, but they did give us some great advice. And then Habitat said, yes, we would take on this project. We probably wouldn't be able to do it for like 5 years, but we'd definitely be interested. We do small scale things. They said it would only probably be, I was initially thinking maybe we could have like a duplex there, but they said for ownership, they much prefer to do single family because it's hard to do ownership with a duplex. You have to create like a condo association with just 2 things in it that people are paying fees. They got to argue with each other. So they were like, we strongly recommend single family. So we were like all set to go. And then they looked at our perk test. And they were like, well, that's not the greatest perk. They're like, that's going to cost a lot extra to put the septic system in. And they were, so Megan, who's the ED at Habitat, said that she was going to talk to her like septic expert guy and try to get an estimate. We do still have some funds appropriated from CPC that we can spend on like the preparation aspect of that property for development. But we don't know if that's going to be enough so that we can help offset that septic cost to make the project more attractive or not. So basically Habitat was like, we would bid on this, but the septic system is like a hurdle. So anything we can do to make that easier. So right now we're looking around to figure out if we can get an estimate on what that additional septic cost is. And if it's like astronomical, we may need to rethink what we're going to do there. But if it's surmountable with just a little extra funding, then that's the plan.
So Habitat, you said would bid on it? Are you meaning just say they would accept the project? Is that?
Yes, they'd accept the project. So yeah, we don't need 3 bids or anything, but we do need to put out RFP, so they would propose.
Do they put any funding into it other than the construction, or they just accept the land and build to the construction?
It's pretty much on them if they accept it to figure out the funding for everything, but they will probably come to the CPAC for some of their funding. Probably not necessarily all of it, but knowing that the town has CPA funds and that like CPA is interested in the project will make them also more attractive to the project, knowing that they do have that one funding source. But they have their own ways of doing these things anyway. So, and then they would also be handling the marketing, sale, and everything like that. They would basically just take the property and handle it from then on.
Just because I'm ignorant about prior discussion. So was part of this the hope that CPA would be giving a certain amount of money to the housing trust, and we wouldn't necessarily have to take repeated votes on this sort of thing, but the trust would be able to make those negotiations with these sorts of groups, or not?
Yeah, I mean, that was more for acquisition, because acquisition is such a time-sensitive thing that when we tried to, put an offer on a property, by the time it came through town meeting, it was done. So that wasn't necessarily the main reason we wanted a housing trust. Yes, they could take on some of that, depending sort of where the money lies. Like, we haven't even moved money to the housing trust yet, and this may happen before then. But yeah, I've been thinking about like how the housing authority and the housing trust would work together, and like who would do what basically, and that's sort of still in flux. The housing trustees are going to have to create sort of an outline of their procedures and policies and goals and things like that, and I assume they'll sort of work with or at least communicate with the housing authority on that. So I think that will sort of become more clear who's going to take on what projects and things like that as we move forward with that, once we get it.
Would a Habitat house be considered affordable housing?
Yes.
Yeah,
So it would get us on the inventory.
Yeah.
And that's the goal.
That would be
and
great.
There will be deed restrictions about how much they can sell it for. Is that true? Or-
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Deed restricted.
In perpetuity,
Yes, absolutely.
Goes with the title.
And so the other thing's been happening once we got connected with Wayfinders, who, by the way, is just the coolest organization of all time. They're so awesome. They do so much to make this community just a better place. But props to them. But they have this sort of Western Mass Housing Coalition, and they do a lot of advocacy. We're meeting on Friday. They do a lot of advocacy around state funding for housing, and so that you may have heard about this massive housing bond bill that's coming out, and they're really advocating for like funding for rural towns, because one of the hardest things about making housing things happen around here is that there's really no funding except CPA funding. And considering how much construction and housing costs right now, even though we have a ton of CPA funding, it's not really enough to fund massive projects, such as the one that was proposed across from Parker or Grady that is not, it's still sort of in process. They're like rethinking the project. So hopefully they're advocating for the housing bond bill to make change the rules a little bit. So for example, they had requirements like, unless you have at least 10 units, you can't get this funding for this certain thing. So the Western Mass Housing Coalition, led by Wayfinders, was like, we would recommend in this bill that you do not have that 10 housing requirement, or make an exception for rural housing and things like that. So they're just doing amazing stuff. They're having like a legislative briefing on Friday, sort of give all the recommendations. So hopefully those will do good things. And another thing we talked about was trying to get a 40R overlay district, which is basically you can, even if you have, say, a commercial center, and we were talking about this in terms of the Harley-Davidson place, which is now going to be a Dollar Tree, so it's not going to be housing. But we were over there and we were talking about how, that potentially could be developed into housing if we had a 40R overlay district, and nobody would have to go crazy rezoning. It could be, among the sort of multi-use commercial zone, but we could build housing. And having a 40R district is a big attractant for developers, both for-profit and non-profit, because it makes, if they have the zoning already set, they don't have to go through that hurdle of trying to get something rezoned in order to build. And, we don't want to build in our beautifully conserved nature areas, but we have a lot of sort of commercially zoned areas that have, unused spaces. So just looking further into that.
So the 40R allows multi-use, is that?
Yes, it allows housing, commercial, etc. So that's what's going on in housing. We're meeting next week. I'll have more info for y'all soon, but that's the deal.
We'll jump back. It's a shame you can't do a duplex, but I understand the challenges with that, with establishing a condo and then if you're having trouble putting in one septic system, two septic systems, it's going to be even worse.
Right. And I mean, we're not going to prescribe that it has to be one thing in our RFP. So assuming the septic thing works out, we're going to say 1 to 2. And if someone other than Habitat suddenly shows up and is like, we're going to we're psyched about this, then by all means we'd work with that. But chances are that's not going to happen.
Would be for 2 units up
Yeah.
on lot.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it would be great just because all the resources going into one unit. It's like, great, we've
Absolutely.
inched up one tiny decimal point on our way towards the 10%.
Here, if there's nothing requiring a vote,
We are good. I mean, we won't be able to adjourn without you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well,
that requires a vote, doesn't it? Yeah, okay.
But that's pretty much it. I mean, that's honestly all we have in this, except for scheduling our next meeting. Anyone else have things to say? Any other business?
Next meeting.
Next meeting. Okay, so today is the first Wednesday. So if in January, that would be the 3rd. How would you guys feel about moving to fully remote meetings? Yay or nay? Thoughts?
Definitely yay.
Yeah,
yay.
yeah.
Yeah?
I mean,
I would say no, but that's okay. I'm really with
yeah, I'll go either way.
Well, how about
but-
this? What if we do it for the winter while Joy is on bed rest still, and it's cold and miserable out, and it's dark when we're here? What if we do it just for like the next couple of months, and then when it's nice out and beautiful at 5 p.m., we can come back in person? How would you feel about it? Does that sound a little bit more
I'm
amenable?
flexible. It's fine.
Okay. And maybe you can like mail us cookies next time if we're virtual. Okay, so that said, we're looking at 5:30 on the 3rd.
January 3rd.
January 3rd. Let me just real quick check my calendar and then we will let you all leave. Okay, I'm good on the 3rd.
Still 5:30, is that correct?
Still 5:30 virtual.
And remote.
Yes. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That's
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.